Hello and welcome to Weekday Warriors of Wrestling for February 16th, 2023. It's our first show of the year. It's been an eventful few months for us, but also for the wrestling world. And
Oh,
a
what's
lot of
happening?
things. Yeah, what hasn't happened? Vince McMahon is back because of course he is. Uh, Cody Rhodes has won the Royal Rumble, but Sami Zayn and the Bloodline have a storyline going that's lighting the world on fire. And on the other end of things, AEW has, I guess you can say since September, but AEW is still cold and WWE is red freaking hot right now. And it's amazing to me, this kind of flip in a little over a year, because if you remember September 2021,
hmm
AEW was beating WWE on Mondays in the demo. And I mean, boy, have times changed.
Did it start? And I guess we'll get this discussion starting this way. Did it all start to go downhill when Cody Rhodes left? Was that the first brick in the wall to kind of switch the momentum between the two companies?
So I mean, that was definitely a factor. I think you didn't start to see things really happen until 2 weeks after Double or Nothing. I think that's the big kind of cascade effect. Actually, there's three things that I think happen. So I think Cody is a key one, regardless of how many. Sorry, and I have a persistent cough that I've had for 3 weeks, everyone. So I apologize about that. Um, Cody going, I thought, was a big one because you and I have talked about this. You can never have too many stars. And at the time, AEW had Cody, Punk, Omega, Hangman, Brian, Moxley. Who else?
Hangman, Adam Cole.
I said Hangman. Yeah, Adam Cole. Yeah. Yeah. So they had a bunch of stars, and and but Omega was out. Um, you know, so I to this day I don't know what Tony Khan was thinking. I guess the idea is I'm fine right now, and I mean that's great, but you might not be fine a few months from now. And of course, then eventually Punk got injured. Omega was still injured. And you had fewer stars than you did before. So you're not suddenly in a position of power. It reminds me a lot of WCW in '98 when Bischoff, just to fuck with Nash and Hall, got rid of X-Pac, or Six at the time. And it's like, he's like, what do I need him for? I've got all these top stars. And X-Pac coming over, many people have pointed out, and I think correctly, was a key momentum shift. It gave DX a cool that they had, and a youth that maybe they hadn't had before. So yeah, I think Cody was one. I think the second thing was the NBA playoffs last year, or in 2022, whatever you want to call it. If you look at the demos, the 18 to 34-year-olds, I think, they left during that period, and they've never come back in the numbers that they were at that point. I don't know if it was cord cutting, if it was just I don't know what it was, but their numbers were never that high in that demo after that. And then of course you had the injuries, you had the gripe bomb, you had a bunch of mistakes, I would say, not turning MJF face when they should have. Just Ring of Ring of Honor. The Forbidden Door buildup. We all know Forbidden Door was a good show, but the buildup was confusing, and I think lost a lot of viewers. So I think there have been tons of mistakes, and as WCW shows you, as WWE shows you, when you make mistakes, it is tough to get that momentum back. WWE had a bunch of things go right for them. They've regardless of what you think of them, they've booked Roman Reigns solidly as champion. He's a legit superstar.
Mhm.
Cody too. Sammy as well. The Bloodline storyline is great. That ending promo, that ending angle at the Royal Rumble was fantastic.
Mhm.
And then they followed it up with that Cody promo the next night, and then the Cody and Heyman stuff. And like their momentum is red hot right now. And AEW is like, I mean, you got to have something big on the horizon, and I don't see much big on the horizon. The only thing is the thing that everyone suggested, and that's if you can get Punk, if you get the Elite okay with Punk coming back, and you get Punk okay with Punk coming back, and you do that feud, that could be very big. But otherwise, I mean, I guess you could do kind of a redemption story with Adam Cole, but the thing is, I'm not seeing a big storyline or something to change to change fortunes, because that show last night, it was so blasé, it was devoid of star power. And it's so funny because a year ago, oh, Tony Khan doesn't need Cody Rhodes. Now, boy, he'd sure like to have fucking Cody Rhodes if he could, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And and even, not just last night's episode, but a lot of the episodes of Dynamite, there's a bunch of little things that they don't do that would make the show so much better. And just as an example, last night's episode, Hangman Page gets attacked backstage by Kip Sabian and Butcher and the Blade. Okay. Now, the way it was presented, it was kind of like a throwaway segment that if you went to the bathroom, you would have missed it. I see that. It's like, all right, you've got a match coming up between Hangman and Kip Sabian, and you can do something with that and help give Kip a little bit of something. Why not make that a running storyline throughout the night where is Hangman going to make it to the match? We don't know. We could be getting updates on Hangman's condition throughout the night. But the way they presented it, it was just a quick, 20-second thing, and we're supposed to care about this really, really cold match. And whatever it was that they were trying to do with that, it had the same impact whether they'd done the segment or not. It was still an ice cold match.
So, I mean, they did Excalibur did say that that match is supposed to be next, but we don't know if it is and stuff. But I mean, it wasn't woven through that you would do. But here's my bigger question. And this is the same question that people had in July of 2019. Why is fucking Hangman Page in a competitive match with Kip Sabian anyway?
Yeah, that should be.
Why doesn't Hangman just squash him in 2 seconds and kill him? Because he's supposed to be one of your top stars, and Kip Sabian isn't, and isn't going to be, and it's fine. And then Moxley comes out and they do the segment. That's what people are interested in. They're interested in Hangman and Mox. So get to that. Keep Hangman strong, just like you did earlier when Mox choked somebody out with a fucking chain, and just have the guys that you're going to have fight at the pay-per-view look like $1 million. I don't understand in a lot of these cases. And this is not an AEW problem. This is an industry-wide problem. I don't know why you have to have 50-50 match booking. I'm not talking about wins and losses 50-50 booking that WWE did for years. I'm talking about every match has to be fucking, I'll take 50%, you take 50%. And I guess it makes the matches more exciting, I guess, but you're just I don't know. I would love the spontaneity of a quick knockout, like a Tyson fight or something,
Oh, that's one of the reasons that UFC, exactly. That's one of the reasons that UFC was able to take some viewers away from pro wrestling for a while, because anything can happen. Once that bell rings, it's like somebody could get knocked out in 5 to 10 seconds. And that was one of the elements of excitement that Brock brought back to WWE when they started booking him as the big, unstoppable final boss type of guy. When he had that match with Cena at SummerSlam, after that, it felt like any Brock match could be over within 10 seconds. And that made his matches more exciting.
Yeah, and they transferred that over with Ronda, and I think they not as much, but they do with Roman and Charlotte and stuff. But but yeah, it's I mean that that show was sorry, I just got some weird notification. That show was just the main event. So I am all for outsider type angles, but the Britt, Saraya, Ruby, Tony, yeah, I think that's all of them. Storyline is it just came out of nowhere. They did the turn so quickly. It was like they did the double turn almost Russo like.
Mhm.
And it's just like they've done some good segments, like when Saraya like had the camera and they're like beating somebody, like that was cool. That like the presentation is generally very good with AEW. It's better than WWE's is. But it's just like whiplash from like, okay, forever Britt and Jamie are the bad guys and kinda. And then Saraya and Tony and then just out of nowhere with not a lot of buildup. Um, I don't know. It's just like it's not clicking. And you could have like it'd be interesting if they had that moment like at the end, whose side are you on? And then Ruby turns and joins them, and that could be a thing. And you could do kind of an NWO like who's going to join next of this crew. But yeah, it's just like there's so many things that aren't clicking. Like the the MJF Daniel Bryan stuff. It's fine, but how many times are we going to do the gauntlet angle? How many times is MJF going to cut a promo like the drunk driving one, where it's like, we get it, you're evil. Like we don't need more examples of you being evil. It's established. We buy it. It's fine. Like so and it sucks because I think MJF is really great. I think he's like fantastic in the ring. I thought his match with Takeshita was the best match on the show last week. And he is when he is not going to like lowest common denominator stuff, he's such a great promo. And there's stuff he does that's great, like when he was saying when he was talking about in his promo about Bryan this week, he was saying that Daniel Bryan, I'm not gonna let you stab me in the back like everybody else does. So it shows that kind of like insecure young kid that he's always talked about, when he was bullied and stuff. And that's an interesting underneath character and like subtext for him. But it's still like, to me, the only storyline that's really hitting right now is Hangman and Mox. Everything else is just okay or not good.
Yeah, that's about right. And going back to the Bryan Danielson and MJF stuff, it's again, like you said, it's not that it's bad. It's just that it feels like it's not anything that we hadn't seen before from AEW involving other talents. It's just kind of like, oh, it's a solid wrestling storyline. It's not Sammy and the Bloodline. And I think right now, people are looking at what WWE is doing with Cody Rhodes, with Sammy and the Bloodline, and all that other good stuff. And really, it's like it's the best storyline in wrestling right now. And I don't know what the WrestleMania main event is going to be, because they've literally got like 6 options that they could do and work those 3 guys into a WrestleMania main event. And it would be any of them would probably work. But
yeah, it's going to be Cody and Roman. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, most likely. But again, there's other ways they could go with it if they wanted to. They've got options. But you look at that and then you look at AEW, it's like, why aren't you doing something half as good as that? Like, what's going on? And, there was a point in time when AEW was the most exciting show, and now it just kind of feels like it kind of feels like WCW. I don't want to say 99 or 2000 when it was the shits, but more like 94, 96 WCW, where it was like, it's not bad, but we need a little sizzle on the steak and something's missing. And we're waiting for that NWO or something like that to happen. And there's just nothing right now.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many guys that are like colder than they were. The Ring of Honor stuff, it's just, when is this shit going to stop? Because he said after Final Battle, he's like, we're going to take Ring of Honor off of here. And then, holy shit, this week it's like there wasn't a segment that didn't have Ring of Honor in it.
It's bizarre. I mean, this is creatively, it's one of the worst, probably the worst thing they've ever done, is interweaving Ring of Honor so heavily into the programming to the point where it's confusing. Like, and there were times when WWE would do the brand split, and it's like, okay, who's a Raw guy? Who's a SmackDown guy? I don't know what's going on. Here, it's even more confusing because I couldn't even begin to tell you what the Ring of Honor roster is right now.
I mean, they're all just, he announced Mark Briscoe was all elite. I'm like, okay, so he's both. Like, I don't like, it's just like, I've told you my theory that he bought that thing because of Punk, right?
Yes, you have. Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case.
Yeah, I'm convinced he bought Ring of Honor because of Punk. But like, or he overestimated how much interest he thought there would be. Like from with once again, I cannot stress this enough. The Warner Brothers Discovery, which the whole goal when they had the merger was to cut $3 billion in debt, and he's like, they're going to give me a lot of money. So like, yeah,
Dude, if
so,
they canceled Batgirl, they're not going to give you a ton of money. I'm just saying they're in slash it mode right now.
I think they could if they were pushed, but I, based on everything I've seen, do not think. Okay, so here's the deal. I think we've talked about this on their other shows. WWE has never gotten a huge rights fee ever until last time. The big thing they did last time was they got CAA involved, which is an agency, a talent agency in Hollywood. Nick Khan ran those negotiations, and Nick Khan did what any good agent would do, and that's get as many parties bidding as possible. So he had Facebook, Amazon, YouTube, Comcast, Universal, Fox, all the players were in there, and that's how they got their big deals. So number one, I don't, and actually, let me get to this first. So Tony Khan has a very small agency, but he handles the negotiations himself. Meltzer has said this before. Meltzer says he's notoriously stubborn with that. And I think that's a terrible idea. I think it's a great skill of a leader. And Vince McMahon, in a lot of cases, did not do this stuff. He did not delegate to other people, but a great skill as a leader is knowing when other people are experts at something and letting them do it. If you do not get other bidders involved in this process, what is the impetus for Warner Brothers to give you more money? I mean, they're not going to. Let's get this clear. I'm not saying they're going to cancel them. I don't think they're going to cancel them. I think they're going to offer them like $1 million more a year. Hardly anything. But Tony Khan needs about 3 times what he's getting to stay competitive in talent, for talent wages. And
yeah.
And if you don't bring in FX or Disney or someone as an opposing bidder, what are you're going to say? Well, I'll go elsewhere, and they'll say, okay, well, where are you going to go? And you don't have anyone else. So I think that's the major issue, and I worry about AEW because of that reason. Because I would like them to get a big renewal so they can compete for talent. And I mean, look at how much better competition has made WWE. Do you think they would have done these storylines and this type of thing if there was no? I mean, we saw what they did with Cody Rhodes when there was no AEW. So.
Oh, absolutely. And I've said this from day one. It's like, look, I don't need AEW to defeat WWE or conquer them or anything like that, but it's nice having it around because I can tell you right now that guys like Wardlow, guys like Darby Allin, guys like Hangman Page, Jungle Boy, Sammy Guevara, like all the guys that they've made into, reasonably recognized stars. I highly doubt that most of those guys would have gotten a chance in WWE because, you can only push so many people, and It allowed a platform to create new stars and be more exciting. So I think the wrestling world is better having an AEW in it. I just don't want to see them shoot themselves in the foot.
Having an AEW and a WWE together competing.
You need Coke and Pepsi.
Yes, exactly. Otherwise, Coke gets complacent and it puts out a bunch of shit. Yeah, exactly. So yeah. And by the way, I don't think WWE is going to get the amount of money they got last time because Fox, first of all, their ratings aren't good enough for Fox to make money on the ads, and we don't know if they view them as a lost leader. But Fox does not have the huge amount of money they had after the Disney purchase. That's basically they had an excess of cash, so they were able to really bid up for that. So I don't think WWE will be on Fox after next negotiation.
Interesting.
But yeah. So what else is happening in the world of wrestling? Jay White is probably leaving.
Who's leaving?
Jay White is probably leaving New Japan.
Yeah. They actually just announced right before we started recording that he's got a match with Eddie Kingston at the Battle in the Valley New Japan show. That's going to be a loser leaves. The loser is no longer allowed to wrestle in New Japan. So I wonder who's winning that one.
Yeah. I haven't heard of where he would go. I guess I would assume WWE. They've always been interested in him. Um, eh, I mean, quite honestly, WWE is probably a better fit for Jay White because we've
Mhm.
seen Jay White in AEW, and he had a really good match in at Forbidden Door, but the crowd wasn't super into him. Is he going to get over with that crowd? I think he's like Triple H's style of worker. I mean that as a compliment, honestly. Even if it didn't come off as one, I think he probably does better there.
Uh, Truthfully, I'm looking at AEW's roster right now. I think you need to work on the guys you have and not worry
Yeah,
about.
I agree.
And the only person I would consider bringing into AEW right now is Punk, and to see if you could mend that bridge and get something to work out of that. But for other than that, I think you've got a pretty loaded roster of guys that are kind of been hampered by less than stellar booking. So you should probably focus on cultivating the talents that you currently have, rather than.
They've got a great roster. It's like, why is Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks wrestling nothing matches every week? Why isn't Kenny Omega in a storyline? Why isn't he cutting a real promo? Who are the like? Why? What? What are we doing here?
What's the trio like? Okay, so they basically created the trios titles to give them something to do and give them their own little area on the show. But it's like, yeah, but they're not really doing anything with it. They just have matches and that's it. And you would think
Yeah,
that they would. I don't know. You think they would take up a little bit more TV time?
to me, it's like Kenny so they have the super elite storyline where Kenny turns heel and forms his group and he beats everybody and then eventually loses to Hangman and then he's like, you know what? I got to take some time off. I got to prove myself. And then he comes back and it's nothing follow up to that. No, Hangman, I want one more match. I just want to know. No, like, Bucks, why didn't you help me in that? Like, I obviously the plan was probably Kenny Omega and the Bucks against Undisputed, but
Everybody got hurt.
yeah, everybody got hurt. So like, I get that, but like, don't you have a backup plan? What else are you doing with the heart and soul of your company right now?
Yeah, I forget they're there half the time.
Yeah,
Because
they fade. They have good matches, and you're like, yeah, but they're not like meaningfully involved in any part of the show.
no, and as we've talked about this before. You can have long matches on TV all the time, but we see so much of that now that stuff kind of goes in one ear and out the other. You need, again, I keep saying it, but you need sizzle on the steak. You need a reason for these matches to matter, and that's not happening right now.
And I would say the trios are an albatross more than anything. I would say in American wrestling, maybe Japan too, not Mexico, of course, but in American wrestling, I don't think they've solved how to make compelling trios angles. I mean, maybe some stuff they did in Lucha Underground, but like AEW hasn't, like, their idea was like, let's have these teams wrestle 7 times in a row. And you're like, okay, I mean, these are fine, but what what are we doing here?
Making it worse is that AEW, like every other company in the world, has too many belts. And
Yes.
I'll say this again to throw more credit to WWE. They started getting better when Roman started holding both world titles and the Usos held both tag titles. And all of a sudden, belts mean at least a little bit more. Instead of 20, we've got 18, and that's better. And it helps. It definitely helps.
Well, they started elevating the U.S. and Intercontinental title, right? Like the U.S. title would main event shows and like kind of be the main belt, right?
Yeah, I mean that's the idea that I've had for years. It's like one IC and US title, one should be the Raw title, and one should be the SmackDown title, and that's kind of what they've done with them. And it works so much better that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So, oh boy, what else? What else do we want to chat about?
Well, we've got 2 shows coming up this weekend. WWE's doing Elimination Chamber, which is their last big roadblock until WrestleMania. And we've got New Japan's, I talked about it earlier. They've got Battle in the Valley, which I think is happening first. Yeah, February 18th. And they're both happening the same day?
Money. Money.
Yeah, okay. A lot of wrestling on February 18th. So be sure to enjoy that. It's a big Saturday.
There's nothing better than Mercedes Monet's theme song.
Okay, can we talk? We haven't talked about her debut, have we?
Oh no, we haven't.
Yeah, that was a fiasco.
So it's so funny to me because Sasha, Mercedes, whatever you want to call it, has like one weakness in her game and one only, and it's and it's speaking, and that's the thing they had her do. On top of like somehow fucking up that move, which I like, was that even like, has she done that move before?
I don't believe so. No,
Yeah. So I'm
she's
like,
not in the ring.
yeah. So yeah. So that it was I mean, she looked ridiculous but great. Um but yeah, it was, and she like stood there for way too long. Yeah, it was not great.
It was one of the, like, I was getting Shockmaster vibes, and that's not. I mean, and look, I'm going to throw Sasha and Mercedes a lot of credit. I think she is. She's got a devoted fan base. I think she is a needle mover to some degree,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that brought a lot of eyeballs to Wrestle Kingdom that wouldn't have been there otherwise. Very similar to Jericho and Omega from a few years back, but it was like all those people tuned in, and they saw her just completely lay an egg, completely. So it's not a very good start to her run outside of the WWE. Hopefully, this match goes much better because it's kind of the star attraction of the show. So again, we'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. Um I mean, it should be a good show. I don't know if Okada and Tanahashi is going to be as good as it would have been many, many years ago, or even a few years ago. Not on Okada, just Tanahashi is very old, and I don't think as big of a star as he once was. Um, White and Kingston should be good. I mean, the match between Kyrie and Mercedes should be really good. Um, be interesting to see what they do if she's there on a long-term deal or what. Um, I mean, otherwise, not too much jumps out at this card for me.
No, I think, yeah, I think again, I'm looking up and down this card. I think it should be okay for the most part. I can't believe Homicide is still wrestling. That's interesting, but
Me too. Yeah.
yeah, I think it should be good. It's just Mercedes is going to be the one that's going to be the big talking point of the show. So hopefully she delivers and comes off better than she did in the Tokyo Dome.
Yeah. And then we've got the 2023 Elimination Chamber. We've got 5 announced matches right now.
I imagine that would be the whole card because Elimination Chamber matches tend to be pretty long.
Yeah. So for the U.S. title, we've got Theory, Rollins, Gargano, Bronson Reed, Damian Priest, and Montez Ford. I feel like Theory wins here, but then if he's going to work with Cena, is that like a non-title match? Is it for the title? Like
It might be for the title because Cena is a former U.S. champion, so they've got something to play with there. Yeah, I'm looking at that group. It's like the only ones I could even fathom winning it would be Seth or Austin because nobody else in that group really matters. And Seth is going to be working with Logan Paul, which I imagine won't be for the U.S. title.
Yeah. I agree. I mean, I think Montez Ford has like all the potential in the world, but they just haven't given him that like credibility yet to make that mean something.
Yeah, this seems like he's being given the spot to be like, all right, go out and show what you can do, and let's see if something happens. Which good for him.
Yeah, we got Asuka, Liv Morgan, Nikki Cross, Raquel Rodriguez, Natalia, and Carmella in the ladies elimination chamber for a match at Mania. Did Rhea pick Charlotte?
She did pick Charlotte. That match is already set. So again, I'm looking at these 6. The only one I can picture winning it would be Asuka.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's only because she's like...
I mean, they've done shit like this before, though. They've had fucking Liv Morgan beat Ronda Rousey. So...
that didn't go very well.
And then we've got... I thought WrestleMania would be... they'd number it again since Vince was gone for a while, but they're not. Next, we got Bobby Lashley and Brock Lesnar, which a year ago they wrestled at the Royal Rumble and then kind of at the Elimination Chamber. I mean, it should be good. it was good the first time. It just like they had Bobby go over with that cheap finish, and I mean, like, it'll be interesting to see what they're going to do at Mania. Like, is this a double count out? Do they need like some big like MMA type style match, or how are they going to get there?
Yeah, that's because I thought for sure this would be safe for Mania. So it's like, ooh, we're probably getting some kind of a gimmick. I was also thinking because of how the Royal Rumble turned out. It's like, man, what if they did Lashley, Lesnar, Gunther, Sheamus, and Drew all in just a 5-way for the IC title and just let them stiff the hell out of each other? It's like that might be fun to watch.
Yeah, but that wouldn't be bad. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be down for that. Or even just like these two and Gunther in a 3-way, I think would be really good.
Then we have the Grit couple. Remember? Because they were taking on the It couple of Edge and Beth Phoenix, taking on Judgment Day with Balor and Rhea Ripley.
Yeah, Judgment Day has to do this.
Yeah, I think they do because Ripley's in the title match. Edge, I think his contract is coming up soon, so you probably want Balor to go over. And as old as Balor is, he's still younger than Edge. So, and that's probably leading to a singles match between Balor and Edge at Mania. So,
I've heard rumors of the Hell in the Cell match. Which could be interesting. That's normally that spot's reserved for the Triple H's and the Undertakers of the world. So.
Yeah, I mean, Edge has had his Hell in a Cells, so you know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then we got the big one. We got Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn. This is, as everyone has been talking about, like one of the best stories in wrestling. I expect Roman to go over here. Maybe Sami gets a visual pin or something. Maybe has the Uso that seemed to be leaving come back to Roman yet?
Sort of. The Usos defended the tag titles on SmackDown, and the whole story. Again, I talk about running storylines throughout the night where, he was on the phone, is like trying to get a hold of him to come to the building, and then he showed up as a last minute kind of surprise right before the bell, and they successfully defended the titles. So, his Jey Uso's loyalties are still in question. So I would imagine he's going to turn on Sami here and then set up a tag title match for WrestleMania, Sami and Kevin Owens versus the Usos. That could main event night one.
Yeah, honestly. That could be the first time they have a legit tag match that does it. Then you have bloodline in both of them. I think that's a cool way to do it. So that's what I think they're going to and should do probably.
Yeah, and like I said, like they've got several different options that they can kind of play with here. They could go the tag team route and then Roman versus Cody in night 2. They could do one idea I've heard thrown around is that he defends the WWE World title against Sami in night 1 and then the Universal title against Cody in night 2. I've heard triple threat with both belts defended in 2 falls. Like there's a lot of different ways they can go with this, but for right now, I'm kind of banking on Sami playing the Mick Foley spoiler role like he did at WrestleMania 15. I think Sami's going to cost Roman the title at Mania, but he's not going to win it.
Yeah. I think whatever they do, it definitely is lining up to be pretty interesting.
Yeah, and it's like they got I'm looking ahead to WrestleMania. Like they've got some good things set up. Like I'm actually kind of digging the Dominic Mysterio and Rey Mysterio stuff. Like I like the prison tough Dominic Mysterio. It's a pretty good gimmick. Yeah,
no. I think what did she say? 4 squares and one I can't remember what Corey Graves said, but it made me crack up.
It's all
three hot meals a day, and yeah. Yeah. All right. I think that is good for today. Hopefully we'll try to do something next week, but who knows with us because you never know. Life gets busy. But I'm Eric Clancy, joined by Mr. Patrick Kelly, and we are
signing off.